report. Well, the mother of all disappointments, that is how the Taxpayers Union is describing this year's budget. Here to talk about that is the union's Executive Director, Jordan Williams. Kia ora, good morning, Jordan.
Good morning, Ingrid.
The mother of all disappointments, why so disappointing?
Well, there were three tests for the budget for Nicola Willis to deliver on her promise. The first was tax relief. She's talked about the 14 years of inflation, of dragging people into higher tax brackets. In fact, she had to deliver $49 a week for the average worker to make up that 14 years she's been talking about. She only delivered half. And she said that there's no more to come, and in fact is using the same fiscal drag, that same mischief. That's the way she gets back into surplus, yet that's what she criticised Grant Robertson for doing, for not adjusting tax thresholds every year. So fail on the first. The second is spending. Very clearly, this government, every party was elected on the platform of cutting wasteful spending. This budget spends more than Grant Robertson. And in fact, it will take until 2038, that's on the best projections, assuming nothing goes wrong, to get to the government back to the size it was pre-COVID.
Okay, I just want to jump in here. For example, with the referring back to the 14 years since the tax thresholds were changed, I mean, she gave that 14 years as an indication of how long it had been. I don't think there was ever any indication that we were going to go back to 2010 levels, was there?
Well, it's not really. Well, she said that she talked about this, stealth tax increases, which is right. You have to at least, if you're going to provide relief, you've got to at least compensate for the problem you've been talking about. Yeah, and look, we're a taxpayers group. We'll welcome a tax cut any day of the week, but it's certainly under, in principle, what she has talked about, and the fact that she hasn't. The National Party, despite talking about it a lot in opposition, has not put in place automatic adjusting of tax thresholds to prevent this problem of fiscal drag. You're taking one hand, you're giving with one hand and taking with the other.
What more would you have cut?
Well, very simple. It would have actually been better for taxpayers in the long term to tie tax thresholds to inflation. Inflation adjusts like the Canadians do. Actually, lots of jurisdictions do around the world. The way Nicola Willis gets back into surplus, albeit a year late, is using the same mischief of not adjusting tax thresholds to inflation. So on the tax question, it's a fail. On the spending question, it's a fail. And the third is that the deficit this coming year is larger than Grant Robertson's last budget. So we didn't elect this government to spend more, to borrow more, and shortchange New Zealanders on the tax relief. That's why we think it's a disappointment and, frankly, a wasted opportunity.
Where do you think they should have cut more?
Oh, when you've got an 84% increase in government spending, when you're spending in this budget 2 times the amount of the last National Party's budget under Stephen Joyce, very clearly there is a room to adjust spending, cut wasteful spending a heck of a lot more than the small amounts we've seen very well publicised and a few jobs in Wellington. I mean,
we're not talking a few jobs in Wellington. I mean, what I was asking is, where else would you cut? I mean, they've cut thousands of jobs in Wellington. They've cut.
The last government added 18,000.
Yes, and I'm asking you where else you would cut. So you would cut more public service jobs, less spending. Would you get rid of the extra $2 billion on health or the extra $1 billion on education?
Ingrid, this is the disconnect between the establishment in Wellington and intelligentsia and the voting public. We've done over many months asking New Zealand voters around what is the appropriate size of government. The vast majority say it should be back to 2019, and that the government isn't doing enough to cut wasteful spending.
Do you think there is a risk, though? I mean, Nicola Willis has talked about weaning off that spending. She's talking more medium term than short term. To have that sort of drastic cuts that you were talking about, I mean, there'd be a huge impact from that, wouldn't there?
Well, the thing is, yesterday she talked the talk on these things. And she talked about that under Grant Robinson spending absolutely ballooned. But you've got to go into those numbers and look at the projections. She's not cutting them. She's not popping the balloon. She's adding helium. And this is the point, that what the rhetoric doesn't match what those numbers are in Treasury's fiscal outlook.
Okay. And final question, Jordan. Who was the winner? Was there a winner from the budget?
I think the government will be happy in that. I think politically they win because it'll make it very. I mean, no one can. I'm sure someone will on your program today, but no one can credibly say that this is austerity, and they'll be happy. They will be happy with that. The losers are ultimately New Zealanders in the long term, and that there's nothing in this budget for supply side reform, improve New Zealand's productivity, and actually, focus on long-term economic prosperity.
Appreciate your time this morning. That was Jordan Williams. He is the Executive Director of the Taxpayers Union.